Frank Turek thinks we all worship something. Unfortunately, he and the English language are not the best of friends. Or maybe he's just dishonest. In any case, let's see how it all goes wrong as we ask why we should worship anything. These new videos from Frank Turek, as opposed to his old Q&A ones, are certainly more polished and don't leave him hemming and hawing on stage trying to figure out how not to look like an idiot before a live audience. But they don't improve his rhetoric any. It's still the same kind of stupid, irrational religious garbage that he gets paid for by people who aren't bright enough to know any better. So someone has to take a look at these stupid videos and point out where Frank is wrong. And Frank is wrong a lot. This time we look at worship. How can Frank get worship wrong? Honestly, how can Frank do anything else? Let's go watch him fail.
Everybody worships something.
No, I don't. Because as much as I hate to play dictionary warrior, the definition of worship is the feeling or expression of reverence and adoration for a deity. That does not apply to anything I do, because I don't believe in any deities. But the religious especially like to play musical definitions. They like to take what they do and forcibly apply it to others, often by changing the definitions of the word to something more broad, then pretending that everyone is doing what they do. And that's not how this works.
Everybody has something at the top of their priority list. What is it for you?
I have various priorities, but none of them fit under the umbrella of worship. Even the broadest definition of worship, extravagant respect or admiration for or devotion to an object of esteem, that doesn't fit with anything that I do. Now, there are certainly things that are important to me in my life, but worship simply does not apply.
Is it your job, your family, your bank account, another person, prestige, notoriety, material things, fame? What is it? Maybe it's the approval of your parents. There's something that is at the top of your priority list.
Out of those, the first two appeal to me. They make a difference in my life, not in that order, but I find the rest to be utterly pointless, especially when it gets to prestige, notoriety, and fame. All of those things are childish. At the end of the day, so long as I have a roof over my head and people I care about, I don't need anything else. But I'm not worshiping any of those things. That would be dumb.
Everybody is worshiping something.
It doesn't matter how many times you say that. That doesn't make it so. And ultimately, this is just a means for the religious to feel like they aren't out in the weeds somewhere, being irrational about their imaginary friends, while the rest of the planet is dealing with reality. So they conflate importance with worship and pretend that everyone else does it too. I'm sure they don't understand why they get laughed at for suggesting such asinine things.
Seems to me there's only two categories of things you can worship.
Even if you don't worship anything, which doesn't seem to be an option in Frank's eyes.
Something that's transcendent.
You mean something that can't be shown to exist at all?
Or something that isn't.
Meaning everything else that we have any actual evidence is real. In other words, all of the things that aren't imaginary. But Frank won't be honest about that, will he?
What are you worshiping?
Nothing. We've been over this already.
If you try and put things in this world in the spot reserved for the transcendent being, God, you and I will never achieve contentment.
Funny, I'm doing just fine without your imaginary friend. Imagine that. Coming to grips with the reality we actually inhabit, dealing with the world as it actually demonstrably is, not feeling like we get to make up an emotionally comforting fantasy world because we're too immature and emotionally frail to just accept the real world as it is. Those things all lead to contentment. They all lead to satisfaction. But they do so realistically, which is something the religious are seemingly incapable of. Why is that?
The only way to get true contentment is to put God, Jesus, who lived the perfect life and died for you and me, is to put him at the top of your priority list, the only true thing that you worship.
Why in the world would I want to do that? There's no evidence that your imaginary friend is real. Why should I stick your magical man god at the top of my priority list and not, say, Krishna or Odin or the flying spaghetti monster? Why not bow down to unicorns or leprechauns or the Loch Ness monster? Because all of them have the same amount of evidence to support them. Zero, nada, zilch, bupkis. This is the same kind of stupidity that leads immature children to demand that Santa Claus must be real, because otherwise, where do presents come from? And we're supposed to respect this kind of idiotic, irrational behavior from supposed adults. Yeah, I think not.
Other things are worthy of your love and your attention, but if any of those things get above Jesus, you will never experience the contentment and the satisfaction that you seek and I seek.
Too late, already there, no Jesus required. You're just wrong, Frank, as you're wrong about pretty much everything else that spews from your religious gobhole. True happiness comes from within, not from some magical man in the sky. Coming to grips with the world that you live in and your place in it leads to true contentment. Having realistic expectations from reality, not thinking that you're special when you're not, and not thinking that the world owes you anything, those bring positive results. Thinking you deserve some kind of divine justice coming to you just because you want it, thinking that everything you go through is just a test to get into some eternal paradise, and pretending that you have no real responsibility for your own actions because of imaginary sin or devil figures forcing you to do evil, those are downright childish. They're immature. They're not how rational adults are supposed to operate. So why do you, Frank? Why is that the message that you push? Because it's dumb. Frank, you still don't have enough brains to be an atheist, because we see once again that Frank is operating on pure emotion without having two active brain cells to rub together. And when your audience is made up of similarly clueless, irrational individuals, people who couldn't care less about the real world because they'd rather live in their own emotionally comforting fantasy land, spinning a narrative that their bizarre ideas are somehow the best way to live might get you paid, but it doesn't get you respected. Catering to the lowest intellectual denominator, aiming for an audience of critically stunted, stupid people who can't come to grips with the real world because it's too scary. You're not uplifting people. You're not educating people. You're not enlightening people. You're keeping them stupid and ignorant because it pays your bills and makes you somewhat successful. It makes you a reprehensible human being. You ought to know better, Frank. You can't be so stupid as to not know that you're spreading religious manure. But you don't care. Or maybe you really are as deluded and need professional mental help as they do. I don't know. But either way, this is yet another video where you've proven that you've got no clue about much of anything, but you talk a good game to an already delusional audience, and you really don't care about the truth. Can't say I'm surprised. It's pretty much what religious apologists do. You people should be ashamed of yourselves.